Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Faith and Program Committee meeting of Tuesday, June 13th. Call the meeting to order. Regrets from Anisha Thomas and Herman Valoria. Luz, if you could say our opening prayer, if you could, please.
Sure, Mr. Chair. Let's put our in the presence of the Lord, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Oh, my Jesus, I place my trust in you. Let us listen to God's word. You are the light of the world. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand. And it gives light to all in the house. Let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. Sacred Heart of Jesus, full of compassion and love, have mercy on us when we do not let our light shine for others. We now ask for the grace to be lights that shine so others can know your goodness, Lord. Sacred Heart of Jesus, we place all our trust in you. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Yeah, land acknowledgements. We would like to acknowledge that we are on sacred Indigenous territory and thank the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for being the stewards of this land. Approval of the agenda moved by Trustee Bria Corbett. Any questions? Any opposed? Carried. No calendar, no declaration of interest. Approval of the Faith and Program Committee meeting of May the 9th, 2023. Moved by Trustee Daryl D'Souza. Any questions? Any opposed? Carried. David, the first order of business.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And through you, Mr. Chair, there are no pastor's remarks nor awards and presentations. We move on to item D, the Delegation on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Graham Leah.
Good evening, Mr. Leah. Welcome and thank you for the delegation for this evening. I will review a few points related to the rules and process related to delegations. We'll have 5 minutes to make your presentation. This will be timed. We will signal you when there is 1 minute remaining. If you intend to use or begin to use the name, title, position of a staff member or any personal or other information with respect to a member of the board or committee, or a pupil or his or her parent or guardian, I will rule that you must address the committee or board of trustees in an in-camera session. Delegates can be critical of board decisions or make submissions with respect to a recommendation or decision. However, delegates should refrain from negative, critical, or derogatory comments about any identifiable person. Once you have completed your presentation, trustees will be given an opportunity to ask you questions of clarification related to your presentation. Once questions of clarification from trustees are completed, your role in the delegation will be concluded and you will be asked to leave the podium and take your seat in the gallery. At that point, trustees may debate the issue and may ask questions of staff. It is important to be aware that no decision will be made on the issue at this meeting. If there are no questions, please proceed with your delegation. And again, welcome. And please speak. Did Bruce just tell you to speak directly into the microphone?
Bruce told me to speak directly into the microphone.
Okay, we're good then.
Mr. Chair, thank you for directing me, and to everybody here tonight, thank you for making this opportunity for me to delegate. My name is Graham Leah. I'm here with my wife, who's at the back with me for support, and we're here on behalf of our 2 children who are students in the board, one in high school and another in elementary school. My very particular interest tonight is to advocate for what I hope will be the optimal outcomes of the recent school climate survey that was circulated to parents. As I trust you know, the Ontario province defines the very specific characteristics of a positive school environment, including an environment where everyone in the school community feels safe, included, and accepted, where everyone actively promotes positive behaviors and interactions, where equity and inclusion are the basis of the learning environment, and where there's a culture of mutual respect. It further defines what role this board and schools play in fostering that environment, including to actively promote, support positive behaviors that reflect the board's code of conduct and equity and inclusive education policies. So I was very pleased to learn that the Education Act compels this board to conduct a survey like the School Climate Survey. It helps the board understand the experience of students, parents, and staff with unique surveys, identifying the spectrum of demographics within the student base, collecting perspective and emotional responses to their sense of belonging, their well-being, the frequency at which they encounter bullying and harassment, and it seeks to assess how they are treated by the school when it occurs. But my concern is exactly what the board intends to do with the results of this survey. The Act falls short of describing the manner in which the survey's results should affect change and make meaningful difference for the students we care for. So I'm here to suggest to you that in advance of being presented with those results, and take whatever protracted period of time it will likely take to fashion a strategy, that this board begin to consider immediately focusing on where the levers of change reside in your governance, your school administrations, and classrooms. I say that because our kids can't wait for the survey to confirm what I think we already know about the climate. I'm here on behalf of my daughter specifically. My daughter's biracial. I'm white. My wife is Black. So she's having a unique experience in your school system. She's already experienced 2 incidents of harassment in this past school year. One when her teacher thought it would be appropriate to express her own personal views on a racial slur outside of any context of school curriculum, and another when a student in that same class directed a racial slur at her. I might argue there was a 3rd incident when the board spent more than 6 weeks resolving what to do with the teacher's incident, but I don't want to belabor those points. I want to be constructive. I won't trouble you with the many phone calls that I had to make to get updates. I won't trouble you with the fact that I had to manage my daughter's own experience alone. Instead, I'll more constructively suggest what I believe to be some of the levers to success you should consider. Immediately conduct a review of how to manage these incidents today, a gap analysis on the inherent weak points, develop standard operating practices that guide school administrators on the sequence of steps to carry out and the timing that should be reasonably ascribed to each, and do that with a sensitivity to the students and parents who are affected. And seriously consider that the protocols should include reporting certain incidents to this board, calling parents first and engaging them on the balance of steps to be taken, and collectively bargaining with your labor partners define timelines for the resolution of certain incidents that meet a gravity that merit that. Please keep training staff. I know you're doing it, but do more. There's always room to train more. Don't just check the box. Make sure that the take-up is there. And implement post-incident activities that benefit everyone involved. Talk to students about what happened, show them how you handled it and why you took the steps that you did, and correct their misunderstandings about the incident so that it doesn't recur in their own life. My daughter told me that she didn't want to tell anybody about what happened to her because she didn't think anybody would do something about it. Please use your survey to make change.
Thank you, Mr. If you could stay at the podium, Mr. Leah. If trustees have questions, they will have an opportunity to ask them, and you will have an opportunity based on your delegation.
My name is pronounced Leah.
Leah, I'm sorry, what? My
Are there any
apologies.
questions?
Well, hold on, it's done through the chair. Any questions of the delegation from the trustees? If you could either go through the chat or raise your hand. Seeing none, Mr. Leah, thank you very much. Any questions of staff? Seeing none, thank you. David, next order of business, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, we now move on to updates, information, and reports from trustees for receipt. First item would be E1A, which is the Ontario Catholic Schools Trustees Association report.
No report, Ms. Chair.
No report. Thank you very much. Any good news items from trustees? Seeing none, next order of business, David.
So there are no updates, information reports from committees for receipt. We move on to then item G1, Literacy Lead Support in Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board, and Superintendent Murphy will start the presentation.
Welcome, Superintendent Murphy.
Good evening, and through the chair, on page 10 and 11 of the agenda, program has its report on the literacy lead supports in our board. COVID-19 Learning Recovery Fund has been utilized to support 27 literacy lead teacher positions who address the ministry's direction for learning and recovery, supporting our elementary schools in 6 to 9 week blocks that focus on literacy development and best practices in reading instruction. I would like to introduce Literacy Coordinator Anna Murrah, who leads our literacy leads, and it is under her leadership that we are able to present this report tonight in her inaugural appearance before the board. Anna?
Welcome, Anna.
Through the chair, thank you. This school year, a newly created position called Literacy Lead was introduced in Dufferin Peel. A dedicated team of 27 teachers was selected to fulfill this role, with the main objective being to enhance literacy development in the primary grades and to promote best practices in reading instruction. All 125 elementary schools received support from a literacy lead for a period of 6 to 9 weeks. During this time, the leads actively participated in daily activities within primary classrooms. This block of time allowed the leads to become an integral part of the school community, even inspiring some leads to run extracurricular literacy experiences for students, such as this reading and writing club at Father Francis McSpirit demonstrated in the photos. The program department facilitated professional development and training sessions for the leads prior to commencing their placements. A partnership with the religious education and faith formation team established a solid foundation in the values of Catholic education. They explored how to nurture the holistic growth of students, how to keep current in religious pedagogy, and how to integrate this into their work. The literacy leads also received training in culturally responsive pedagogy and engaged in discussions facilitated by our equity team using the book Cultivating Genius. Training also ensured that the leads understood the Ministry of Education resources and guides and the Right to Read report, as these documents played a significant role in informing their work. Literacy resources were supplied as valuable tools to bolster their work, placing a heightened emphasis on the quality and effectiveness of direct and explicit instruction in literacy. Leads modeled best practices in literacy instruction and incorporated multimodal approaches to learning when co-planning lessons with classroom educators. As an example, this picture illustrates a kindergarten class where body movements were integrated to teach and explore phoneme isolation. Engaging in tactile activities like the one shown in the following image, where real objects were sorted based on initial sound, facilitated meaningful connections to the environment and reinforced fundamental understanding of the alphabetic principle. These activities also created a memorable learning experience for our students. Leads have also been instrumental in facilitating the implementation of new literacy resources purchased or created by the literacy department. For example, they facilitated the unpacking and implementation of the phonics kits that were received by all grade 1 educators this school year. The kits included magnetic letters, counters, whiteboards, wiki sticks, and mirrors. They modeled how to use the tools in the kit and how to apply the Dufferin Peel created resources, both in whole group instruction as well as in small group targeted intervention. These activities were also mirrored in the French immersion classrooms by literacy leads with French qualifications. Sound walls are another example of a Deaf and Peel resource that gained momentum in classrooms this year, in part because of the extended support that literacy leads could offer educators in the implementation and application of the tool. The introduction of the literacy lead teacher role has proven to be a valuable addition to the Deaf and Peel board in providing support to elementary schools in literacy and evidence-based direct and explicit instruction strategies. Part of the success is due to the collaboration at the program and school levels. With a model of support that utilized larger blocks of time at each school, literacy leads were able to seamlessly integrate themselves into school communities, establish meaningful relationships, and provide extended implementation support in literacy using the resources provided by program. This approach enabled them to interact with students in a meaningful way and effectively foster capacity building and best practices in reading instruction. Thank you for your time.
That concludes our report, and program is happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Anna. Questions of the delegation or the presentation? Seeing none. Anna, thank you. Superintendent Murphy, thank you. David, next order of business, please.
Thank you. And continuing through you, Mr. Chair, we now move on to item G2, which is extended excursions for the spring of 2023. Superintendent Gauss.
Welcome, Superintendent.
Good evening, and through the chair, the Extended Excursion Committee met on April 14th, 2023 to receive the 9 presentations for proposed extended excursions. There were no.
My apologies. Can you speak into the microphone, please?
Sorry, I certainly can. Sorry about that.
Don't be sorry. Everybody does it. Thank you.
There were no elementary school presentations, and as stated, there were 9 presentations from the secondary panel. The school principal, the excursion leader attended the presentations, and the extended excursion committee reviewed the following details. All proposals were submitted complete with rationale, documentation, itinerary, budget, and approved tour operating information. The Catholic faith was reflected in all of the itineraries, and all students and supervisors will attend Catholic Mass on Sunday during their trip. The students had the opportunity to make up any assignments or assessments that may occur during the missing instructional day due to the extended excursions, as well as a communication plan is in place for supervision of students and keeping all of our parents in tune with what is happening in the trips as they unfold. All of the participants have purchased cancellation insurance, and all participants have mandatory medical coverage and insurance appropriate to the excursion. One thing that we have in place as well is that the trip organizer and the school principal must check the Foreign Affairs Canada and International Trade Canada in advance of the excursion to determine whether the intended excursion is deemed dangerous or is deemed to be appropriate for travelers at that particular time. So we have all of this in place as we have these presentations. If you check on page 15, Appendix A, you will see that 9 excursions are set to go in 2024. Many of them are during the March break. And we only have one that is a social justice, one that is going out that will miss 5 days, and everything else falls within the gap, no more than 2 days being missed out of the school day. And at this time, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that the trustees may have around extended excursions.
Questions from my colleagues? Seeing none, thank you. Oh, go ahead, Luz, sorry.
Just a clarification through the chair. The Saint Thomas Aquinas one at the bottom, is that a church where it says Chiesa es Antonio?
Yes, yes, that is a church that is in Florence.
Thank you. Just another question through the chair. Which one is it that's social justice? Is
It's
it
the very first one, excuse me,
Dominican
sorry, through the
Republic?
chair. It is the very first one at St. Aloysius Gonzaga. And they are going to the Dominican Republic. And it will be from April 6th to the 13th. And that is the 5 days.
Thank you. Thank you,
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions from my colleagues?
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Daryl.
These prices include the airfare as well as hotel and all meals on site?
Through the chair, yes, they do. They are
And
the,
do we know, sorry, please
they
go
are the
ahead.
full package.
Well, then,
And do we know, through you, Mr. Chair, do we know as to how many children we expect to get approximately for these excursions? Because the prices seem fairly high for the international trips.
Through the chair, most of the excursion, they're usually between 15 and 25 students, depending on the interest. You're absolutely right. The prices have increased, but everything in travel has increased at this point. So, but there is quite an interest. We've had a number of calls to say, can we get started on having the students get themselves ready? Many of the students are looking forward to working during the summer to make some extra money to be able to go on these trips.
And, I have another question, Mr. Chair, can I?
go ahead, Daryl.
And does any of these prices include anything other than the cost of the trip and the full board cost for the student? Like, are we subsidizing teachers' travel along with this, chaperones travel along with this in this price?
Through the chair, the teachers that go on the trip are subsidized, of course, through the cost of the trip itself. What this includes is the airline trip plus the accommodation. They have tours along the way, and they have many of their meals. They usually have one or two that's on them because they'd like to go to somewhere special, but overall the whole trip is all inclusive. And this is something historically that we've done, that the teachers that go on the trip, the cost of the supervisor is absorbed by all of the students that go on the trip.
So is it only one or two supervisors whose cost is absorbed, or anything else other than that?
So through the chair, we have a gap that identifies ratios of students based on gender of students that attend an event and the number of students that attend an event or an excursion. So therefore, the schools would be sending the supervisors who are educators based on that gap.
Yeah, and I'm asking as to how many students per child, or how many students per teacher is subsidized in this cost?
So typically, if it's a co-ed trip, it would be 2 males and 2 females that go on the trip.
Did you hear that, Trustee D'Souza?
I did hear, it's a little confusing because we said
2 males,
on
sorry, 2
average-
males and 2 female supervisors. Sorry, through the chair.
So if 15 children are going on the trip, we have 4 staff that would be subsidized by these 15 students.
Through the
Am I
chair,
right
that's
in
correct.
saying?
Through the chair, that's correct. The ratio is 1 to 10 on an overnight excursion. But there also
1 to 10. So if
But
15 students go, we have 4.
there
Is that
also
what you
needs to
said?
be 2 females and 2 males in case of an emergency.
Yeah, it seems. So 15 children will subsidize 4 staff.
Through the
On
chair,
one
that's
trip.
correct.
So if there are 30 students, we're looking at 8. Is that what you're saying?
Through the chair, the ratio is 1 to 10. Anything above that will require another 2 adults if there are co-ed students attending. That is why most schools try to get the number through the chair to about 20.
So I'm a little confused. You're saying it's 1 to 10.
Through the
But
chair,
if there
that's
are,
correct.
if there are 15 children,
Through the chair, that's correct.
there's a minimum of 4. 2 males, 2 females.
Through the chair, that's correct.
So if it's 20, it'll still be 4
Through
or
the
it's
chair,
going to be
that's
6.
through the chair, that's correct. 21 would be the trigger at which we would go to 6.
Okay, and our staff don't pay a single cent for these trips.
Through the chair, no. Through the chair, that's clearly articulated to the parents on the permission form when it goes home in terms of the subsidy for the staff.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Daryl. Any other questions? Stefano, please.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Chairman, before the schools make the presentation to the committees, are they required to gauge interest from students?
Through the chair, typically that is the process. They come forward with the notion of going on the trip, but no such communication is made to the community until this report is provided for trustees for receipt, which is what we are doing this evening. However, to Superintendent Goss's point, schools are very appreciative if these decisions are made before the end of the year so that students can work in the summer and put away some extra money and then continue with that in the fall.
Thank you. And then through you, Mr. Chairman, to sort of piggyback on Trustee Daryl D'Souza's questions, who picks the staff at the school?
Through the chair,
To
that would be the
supervise.
principal. That would be the principal in consultation with the staff. Sometimes the excursion leader is a teacher. Sometimes the excursion leader is the principal. It's a consultative process.
Oh, no, I was blessed to be able to go on trips when I was in high school, and they weren't this. Well, I don't know how much they actually cost, but I'm pretty sure they weren't this expensive. You know, I just don't want it to be like a teacher decides to put something forward, and then the group of friends get to go to Europe for a week, and it's not made as an actual, I guess, democratic process, where
Through the
or
chair.
even a lottery process kind of thing.
Thank you for the comment. Thank you through the chair.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Stefano. Any other questions? Seeing none, David, next order of business, please.
Through the chair, we now move on to item G3, which is the Stewardship and Sustainable Practices Update, and Superintendent Peel will present the report.
Superintendent.
Good evening, through the chair. It's my pleasure this evening to present the annual Stewardship and Sustainable Practices Update Report. Begins on page 16 of your agenda package. I am, however, going to start on page 17, referring to some of the data shared with you. Trustees will see in table 1 located on page 17 that once again, I am very pleased to tell you that we have 100% Eco Schools certification in Dufferin Peel. I'm also pleased to tell you this information is not in the report, that Dufferin Peel is the only Ontario board to have 100% Eco Schools certification this year. There are other boards that had 100% participation, but didn't manage to certify all of their schools. I'd also draw trustees' attention to the bottom line of the chart that has this year's statistics. and identify specifically that 49% of Dufferin Peel schools achieved platinum status in the Eco Schools certification this year, which is quite an extraordinary feat. Below the chart, trustees will find a number of key statistics from the certification applications. In addition to those statistics, I can share with you, we had 42 schools participate in tree planting and maintenance this year. 117 new trees were planted and 635 trees were maintained on Dufferin Peel school grounds. And Dufferin Peel students planted 1,008 pollinator plants in school grounds this year in 72 different pollinator gardens. Continuing on page 17, there's an exciting addition to our report this year. Very pleased to share with trustees that Dufferin Peel's own Edward Kai, who is our Manager of Environmental Support Services, has been recognized by the Independent Electricity System Operator Group as one of their 2022 Energy Managers of the Year, based on Edward's work in Dufferin Peel with our efforts towards energy conservation and environmental sustainability initiatives. Edward was selected based on his work implementing innovative measures, using data analytics, building senior leadership support, adopting strategic energy management best practices, and demonstrating commitment to energy management. Continuing on page 18, as trustees would be aware, we have a very close partnership with both Peel Eco Schools and the Toronto Region Conservation Authority. Dufferin Peel, the Peel District School Board, and our two partners worked very closely this year to create a new action card that schools could use to qualify for points towards their certification, called the Peel Water Story, that allowed students to learn specifically about local water systems, earning points towards their certification goals. I would draw your attention to the bottom of page 18. Once again, we are proud to say that we have an award winner in Dufferin Peel. The Friends of the Credit Conservation Authority honors the important work being done within the Credit River watershed. This year, Jeanette Roy, who is a Dufferin Peel educator and the co-chair of our Interschool Stewardship and Sustainable Practices, received the award for environmental awareness, specifically for her dedicated work in educating and promoting environmental awareness, appreciation, and action. On page 19, trustees will find a summary of the work done by that Interschool Stewardship and Sustainable Practices Council. And I would draw your attention specifically to some information that I think contributed significantly to our outstanding result of having 49% of our schools achieve platinum certification. Specifically, the fact that our council hosted both virtual and in-person eco certification workshops and sessions, very well received by everyone who attended. And this allowed for continued dialogue across and within schools and eco leads to support their efforts towards stewardship and sustainable practices in Dufferin Peel. The organization also offered this year a symposium called For Eco Leads by Eco Leads on March 9th. We were able to tailor this so that eco leads who attended could gather points towards their school's eco certification. There were presentations and then breakout groups. And this year we were very proud to invite eco leads from our coterminous board, the Peel District School Board, to learn alongside us in our For Eco Leads by Eco Leads sessions. Finally, the Interschool Stewardship and Sustainable Practices Council had its first in-person Eco Leads workshop post-pandemic on April 20th, 2023. Trustees will see on the bottom of page 19 some of the anecdotal feedback gathered from eco leads who attended, the opportunity to work collaboratively to complete their eco schools certification by the deadline. Finally, trustees will be aware that on an annual basis, we award the St. Hildegard of Bingen Veritas Award. The email package has gone out soliciting nominations for the award, and I will be pleased to see trustees in September when we present the award to the deserving recipient. And that concludes my report for this evening. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Superintendent Peel. Any questions of Superintendent in this report? Seeing none? Thank you. David, the next order of business.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Yanika, we move on to item G4, which is the Central Committee for Catholic Schools Council's annual report, and Superintendent Brunton will present the report.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
Superintendent.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. United with a collective call to create communities that both inspire and nurture a faithful response to discipleship within all learners. We're reminded that Catholic partners lead through example and in commitment. The Central Committee for Catholic School Councils has worked in partnership with our school communities with a primary focus of effective parent engagement, involvement opportunities, and enabling parents to play a stronger role in supporting student achievement in Catholic education. Through this commitment, engagement, opportunities, and support, CSAC generate a strong community spirit, which makes our schools more than just a place where students learn. The following report provides an overview of the many ways CSAC and local Catholic school councils, as well as the Special Education Advisory Committee, SEAC, have served as they support all children along their journey of faith for this school year. That's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? If I could pass the chair to Trustee Del Rosario. Wayne, thanks for the presentation. I know that in attending a lot of the council meetings, and I know in speaking to my colleagues, a lot of them talked about the continued education and update on human trafficking. And I will tell you, as early as even last night when Trustee Stefano Pascucci and I were at Father Gates, one of the parents, and echoed by a number of them, were extremely pleased that Dufferin Peel continues to take the lead on the human trafficking. Having said that, the next question that came out of one of the parents' mouths was, when are we having the next one? And I know that the plan is to continue to have it in the fall of next year. I know that you and I have had that conversation also with Tamia and her group, pending admin approval, of course. But I will tell you that that subject in itself always gathers immense gratitude on the knowledge that we, through our present presenters, give to our parents, but also our children. So I know that exec staff is always heavily involved in it, as you are. And trustees promote the living heck out of it, as sometimes to ad nausea, but it's extremely well worth it. And I appreciate, as do each of my colleagues, the work that's being done. The investigation from our exec staff and the work that's being done from your perspective as well on that particular subject. So thank you very much.
Are you done, Mr.?
Madam Chair.
Are there any other questions, comments about this report? Being none, I'm passing it back.
Thank you. David, no HIJ.
Through the chair, that's correct. We move on to item K, questions asked of and by board members.
Questions from my colleagues?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I do have a couple of questions.
Ariel, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Is anybody going to be coming after me right now at this point?
I didn't hear a word because.
Sorry, is anybody else coming after me at this point or just?
Well, no, you asked to be on the list, so you're on the list. Go ahead.
Appreciate it. Regarding, this is to the director. Currently, what is the protocol for feminine hygiene products at elementary school when a student is requires something or requires it? What happens now at this point, and what's supposed to happen?
Through the chair, typically the offices will keep a stock of those kinds of products, and if a student came and asked for the product, it would be given to them.
Okay, fine. So, okay, thank you. And there would be any charge or no charge?
Through the chair, we would not charge students who require that product.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Question I have to ask is, there's a concern regarding parking in local school, around the school area. What's the best approach to doing that? Have a trustee write a letter to the local councillor, eventually the city hall, regarding parking in front of schools and things of that nature, cars that park for a long time? Or should the trustee just contact the police directly? What would you have a preference of doing, Madam Chair? Or Madam Director?
Through the chair, can we have an offline conversation so you can give us the name of the school and we can,
Yeah, I can do that. There's no problem. But the question I've asked, what do we normally do in a situation like that when there's a traffic issue in front of schools? I know we have the Traffic Safety Council and those organizations, but of course, that's just a snapshot in time. But something that's chronic and constantly changes and doesn't help. Is the best approach that myself, for example, sending a letter to the local police department? Because I don't want to step over my boundaries, of course. At the same time, I like to meet the needs of the community.
through the chair, that would typically be the responsibility of a principal.
Okay.
If the principal feels that all attempts to try and ensure cooperation from those using the parking lot is aligned. If all of those attempts fail, then they have other tools in their toolbox.
Thank you. Currently, Mr. Chairman, may I continue?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Madam Director, to you, I don't expect you to have this number. I would have to take a little bit of digging, but September is fine with me for a response on this. Currently, what fields do we have out there that we're sharing with the city of Mississauga?
Through the chair, I wouldn't have that at the top of my head.
I know Marcellinus is one. Is there any
We have
other?
Marcellinus, I believe, Loyola. I'm just trying to think of.
Okay, that's fine.
We can put something in issues and events.
Now, the purpose I'm asking, Madam Chair or Madam Director, is that these organizations, I like to ask that our staff provide us basically a scenario how these things are costed out, how we're doing in terms of cost. Are we having any issues? These are great things. The city of Mississauga just loves working with different people because of our relationship that we've fostered over the years. But I just want to have a bit of a plus minus example, like, how much is it costing? Are we utilizing it? Is it being utilized? Because if we want to move forward down the road, we should have a good handle in terms of the costs of having these type of ventures working with another body, political body. I'm not against by any stretch of imagination, but basically, as we're looking at our entire number of plants that we have, et cetera, and the use of schools and things of that nature, it would be prudent for us, I believe, to maybe start looking at this and say, okay, fine, this costs us, this doesn't cost us. This is the way it runs these particular sites. So it'd be a separate report on each of the sites if it's possible. Is that possible, Madam Director?
Through chair, are you asking for a formal report to come to the Board of Trustees, or would you like this put in issues and events and then
We
it
can do
gets
issues and events. We can do issues and events. If anything percolates from that, then we'll go with another direction. But right now, issues and events is perfect.
Okay, well, we'll put it in issues and events.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I have a number of other questions in camera. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Daryl, go ahead, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, do we have a handle on how many international students we've had in Dufferin Peel this year?
Through the chair, Superintendent Vecchio can comment on that.
Superintendent?
Through the chair, the number of international students varies throughout the year. It tends to be higher at the beginning of the year than in the second half. This year, we had approximately 87 international students.
Daryl, go ahead.
And how does this compare to previous years? I mean, not the COVID years, but prior to that? Is it high, low?
Through the chair, my apologies. We had a decline in the number of international students following the COVID pandemic, which was not surprising. We are not yet back to where we were before COVID, which was closer to about 115 students. But registrations for the coming school year suggest that we will get back to where we were before.
And do we actively solicit international students in terms of
Through the chair, there is a promotional and communications campaign that we use, yes.
And are there any specific countries that we target, or it's?
Through the chair, could you say that again, please? We're having a little bit of trouble hearing you.
Are there any specific countries that we target in terms of getting international students, or we just go globally?
I understand the question now. Thank you. We advertise in a number of international publications that are circulated to any countries that make an effort to purchase them and look into them. So the composite, we don't, especially not since the COVID pandemic, specifically target any countries. There was a time when the principal aligned to the program at the time would travel to specific international student fairs. We have not pursued that in a number of years.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Daryl. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, to that question.
Go ahead, Mario.
Thank you. Regarding, I was at a school council meeting the other night, and the question by parents was put this way: there's a lot of students who are having a bit of a difficulty to get back into the rhythm of school because of COVID. It sort of piggybacks on the previous question, but what's happening with, for example, if a child does not want to go to school, especially at secondary? How are we handling it? In fact, if the enthusiasm of when they come back, just it isn't there. How are we handling that right now?
So through the chair, although there may be students who struggle with their enthusiasm and motivation to come to school, I'm happy to report that we do have many students who are thriving and also doing very, very well in school right now. So as always, we take each student and the needs that they bring to the table and implement supports and wraparounds as appropriate.
And is it formalized in terms of come visit me, or do they just have open door, not literally an open door policy, but an opportunity to just drop in, so to speak? What's the best approach that you would prefer as administrator?
Sorry, and my apologies. Through the chair, secondary students in particular always have access to child and youth work support at the school. And they also have access to chaplaincy leader support at the school, which is for the most part drop in and drop by. And then there are other students for whom we need to formalize this process as related to different needs, most of them being special education related.
Okay, thank you for an exceptional response. Thank you. And thank you to Madam Director earlier with those others to respond to those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Any other questions? Seeing none. David?
Through the chair, there are no declared interest items this evening, so we will need a motion to move in camera, please.
Move into camera by trustee Sean Xavier. Any opposed? Carried. David, 10 minutes just to close the doors.
Through the chair, just to close the door, 10 minutes is good.
10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. In camera, we approved the minutes of May 9th and received additional update on a letter received by the province of Ontario.
Mr. Chairman, can I just make a request, please?
Go ahead.
Sorry?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just a point of timing. When we move from in camera to back to in person, I always seem to be about 30 seconds after you've started or any chair has started. I don't know if other trustees have received experienced the same thing that I do. So I don't know if there's something that the board that staff can do to ensure that all trustees are in place first before we do the rise and report.
That would be on me, Stefano. I shouldn't have started. I assumed when I saw that most everybody was back, I didn't look for all trustees. So my apologies on that. And I will make sure that going forward, if I have 9 in camera, I will make sure that I have 9 before I start out of camera. My apologies.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. It wasn't directed to you. It just happens at every meeting. So I want to make sure that it's not just my computer. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. See no other questions, no other concerns. Move adjournment. Moved by trustee Thomas. Any opposed? Carried. Good night, everybody, and thank you again.